Breaking news, everybody. New job data has been released, and the manipulation going on by the government in Canada is so obvious. And I'm going to break it down to you in this live stream today. First of all, let's get into some of the recession indicators and indicators that the economy is imploding and some of the stories of people actually out there in the job market before we get into the labor report. So really interesting. Canada's economy actually lost jobs. The unemployment rate went down, but as I've said many times on this channel, December and January, those reports are highly manipulated, and I've got proof of that. So stay tuned in this video for it. But take a listen to this. This is an indicator of what's going on right now in the job market.
You want a real Canadian recession indicator? Look no further than the new wave of spam texts that are being sent out. I swear I get these like twice a week. It's always like, are you available for a weekend shift?
Now.
And then obviously I answered just to see what they would say. And they were like, oh, we have part-time and full-time positions for applicants over the age of 20. I can't imagine a text that screams scam more. But it's sad because the people are having such a hard time, especially like recent grads, finding work that the scam text.
Exactly. People are having such a hard time finding work that the scammers now rely on these type of things to get people in. And it just shows you where the economy is. She's totally right, because this pretty much mirrors it. This is a post on Toronto Jobs Reddit here. And you can see I've highlighted, I've gotten more scam calls this week than interview calls my whole life. So yeah, that's an anecdotal TikTok, but pretty much this just agrees with what she said there. And again, you've got, I'm 23. I graduated back in 2023 with a 3-year diploma in graphic design. I've applied to everywhere. Nothing. I've tried updating my work. Nothing. Tried pivoting to marketing. Nothing. It took me 2 years after college to find this minimum wage part-time gig that's recently been cutting my hours due to winter slowdown after Christmas/New Year's. But it's got to the point when I'm making below $1,500 a month. Absolutely insane. And people are in this situation. I don't know what to do anymore, like they're saying there. Again, graduates of 2023, 2024, 2025, how are you faring? The job market is brutal right now. I've had more than 10 interviews and still nothing to show for it. At this point, it honestly feels like 2 years of experience and a referral are the bare minimum just to be competitive. And then you go down into the comments here. 10 interviews is amazing, to be honest, especially at places like Sun Life and the banks, and that's got 75 upvotes, so people are agreeing with that. And the same thing again, at least you are getting interviews. That is what people are talking about. And another recession indicator right here is that Toronto home prices now below $1 million. Take a listen to this.
For the first time in 5 years, the average price of a home in the Greater Toronto area is below $1 million. According to the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, the average sale price last month was down 6.5% compared.
So you've got Toronto home prices that are now under $1 million. And let's quickly just go through this. I'm not going to dig too much into it because I'll just show how it's just completely manipulated. This report, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It frustrates me so much, and that's why I'm here today. But I'm happy to be bringing this to the front, and I've got a great chart to illustrate to you what's going on. So employment edged down minus 25,000 in January, but the unemployment rate also went down to 6.5%. And it says that's because fewer people searched for work. Now, the thing you have to understand about the unemployment rate is if you haven't been searching for work for 4 weeks, they just take you out of the labor force. So if you can't find a job and you've just given up for a while, or you're just updating your qualifications or trying to get some work experience or whatever you're doing, then basically they take you out of the labor force, and it makes the unemployment rate look like it's coming down when it's not. But we can see that through the unadjusted data, which we'll be getting into in a second. So in January, employment fell by 27,000 among core-aged women, 25 to 54 years old. There was little employment change among the major demographic groups, and we'll get into where the unemployment actually went up in which industries and everything like that. So very interesting what's happening. What I want to show you is this, because it's the R8 rate that really shows this. So it's basically adding in the discouraged workers there. And you can see exactly what's been going on here, because actually it's just slightly off my screen. So I'm going to flip to this chart because it will show you. This chart is illustrating what is going on. So you got the official unemployment rate, which is the blue line, as you can see, going along the bottom there. And then if you look at the R8 rate, you see how they're diverging right now. One is going up, the other is going down. And you look at the past since 2022, they basically follow each other. You know, the R8 is higher, but it's basically following each other, showing you that there is manipulation, obviously, that's going on. But most of the time, they're following the trend. But now, not so much. In fact, since around August of last year, what you've seen happen is the regular unemployment rate that has gone down, and it started off going down with the R8, but recently it's gone way up. So you now have the R8 rate that is at 9.1%. So you can see how it's been jumping here. It went down from September to October, but then has been going up and up, and you can't see it off my screen there, but it's 9.1% is where it's at right now. So the regular unemployment rate that you see, it's not actually what is going on. It's not indicative of what's actually happening anymore, because there's so much manipulation, and there's more manipulation than that when we get onto the sector breakdown, because again, this is going to show you just what is going on. The private sector is not growing, guys. It's all public sector. After all these job cut announcements, I was skeptical, saying, yeah, we'll have to see how this balances out, right? If they're cutting loads of people in the public sector, but at the same time they're adding people in other areas of the public sector, you can sometimes end with a net gain. And it will be very interesting to see what February's report looks like. But January, you would have expected the public sector to be decreasing. And that didn't happen. Guess what, guys? It didn't happen. So you take a look at what happened here, and this is from December to January. Public sector employees are up 13,300. Private sector employees are down 52,000, and it's really the self-employed going up slightly. But you look at that, that is down 1.6% year over year. So you might think, yeah, that's good. Self-employed going up. That's always good. More entrepreneurs, more small businesses. It's always a good thing, but that's down year over year 1.6%. So that's meaningless. The private sector, 52,000 jobs. It's barely growing. It's growing at half the rate of the public sector. So Canada's economy, once again, exactly like TD Bank said way back in December. Well, that wasn't that long ago, let's face it. But back in December, when I was covering that, they said that this year's growth is just going to be entirely government for the GDP numbers, for everything else. And they're struggling to cover it up even with that. So it's absolutely hilarious. You can see there, public sector growing at 1.6%, private sector growing at half of that, 0.8%, excuse me. So absolutely crazy when you really think about it. If you look into the employment rates across the provinces here, I mean, you can't really rely on these because, again, unless they're unadjusted, we don't really know where they're going up and down. So I'm not even going to really go through these because they're pretty much fake. We know they're fake. I mean, this is just the reality of what is going on. And I want to play another clip for you because people are just really angry. They're really upset about what's going on in the labor force. And I wonder if you're sat and you're unemployed, and you guys will have to let me know in the comments on this live stream or in the chat. But if you're unemployed, How does it feel when the government is just lying to your face constantly saying, oh yeah, the economy, it's really good. We're growing the economy. We're doing all these trade deals, when actually they're just barely keeping the economy alive. It's on life support, as the BNN article said the other day that I posted on X. So anyway, let's get into this.
Please tell me what I have to do in Canada, in Toronto, to get a job, because it's looking like I'm going to have to sell my soul, give them my firstborn child, give them a kidney or a piece of my liver, because tell me how I have a whole degree, years of work experience, and I can't find shit. I just graduated and I know we're in a bad job market, but you know what? It's starting to piss me off because I'm going to end up in a box on the streets. So my new videos are going to be like, hi, welcome MTV Cribs to my freaking...
Yeah, and you really got to sympathize with this girl here, because so many people are in that situation as we've been going through, and people are really angry. And I hope they get angry, because people need to get angry so they stop voting for the same nonsense time and time again. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be vastly different with the Conservatives, but I mean, just voting for the same shit over and over is so goddamn stupid. And that's exactly what has been happening in Canada. You take a look at the breakdown of the industries. Manufacturing had a big drawdown in jobs in January, followed by educational services, which is interesting because that likely goes under public sector jobs. And the fact that that's actually down is really interesting, because you've still got net jobs in the public sector up for the month. And then you've got professional, scientific, technical services, public administration, accommodation and food services, transportation and warehousing, other services. And then if you look at what's actually growing, IT, information, culture and recreation, you've got business, building and other support services. Again, construction is quite surprising to see construction on here. And again, when that flips the other direction, which the industry has been warning about for a long, long time. And last year, you really saw it slowing down, the velocity of the construction jobs just going way down. And that's not a lot of jobs for the construction industry, 8,900 jobs either. It's just going to impact the unemployment rate more than people would believe. It's really going to have a big impact, more than manufacturing, because all these condo buildings, all these towers that are being converted into these rentals, well, guess what? The rent prices are going down, so that equation only works for so long, so that's stopping, and they're not able to complete these projects. And even the projects that are getting completed, where are the workers going? Because they're all getting cancelled and put on hold. I mean, that strip club story, that was another recent one of cancelled condo buildings that isn't happening. The math of a strip club probably works better than the economics of building a condo building. That's a joke, but is it? Because, I mean, it might actually be the case, to be honest. Although, if you've ever seen that movie, I forget what it's called, but it was about 2008 and strippers with Jennifer Lopez in it. That's an interesting movie to watch, by the way, about the kind of financial crisis, but from a different aspect. Really, really interesting. Yeah, so the unemployment rate is down, but it's still, you know, it's just at basically the same level as November there. Youth unemployment, that actually rose, so they couldn't hide that. So that actually went up from 12.8% to 13.3%. This is still historically high youth unemployment that you have in Canada. So that's not a solved equation by any stretch of the imagination. So people are still struggling there. And we're going to get onto silver in a minute, because boy, that has been moving like crazy since the live stream yesterday. And it broke that level and now it's come up. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going on. It probably moved loads since I last even checked it. It's just so volatile right now. So Canadian US dollar is up, which is really interesting, but let's take a look actually how it's faring against the pound, because we know the US dollar is weak. So is that really a good barometer? It's barely up, it's flat. So basically the Canadian dollar is still really weak because the US dollar is just a little weaker. So I mean, you've got a little more You've got rallying markets essentially today by the looks of things, which is going to drive the DXY probably the other way. Yeah, DXY is off today, so the dollar isn't strong. So really that's what that's about. Interestingly, when you look at interest rates, they're actually pretty much flat, up slightly, but pretty much flat. So this hasn't changed the interest rate projections, really. The bond market is what the Bank of Canada follows, not the bond market following the Bank of Canada. And basically, you can see here, pretty much flat. It's up nearly 0.82% today. And this is for the 2-year, which is more what the Bank of Canada follows. Taking a look at the 5-year here, that's up again, but it's not at the highs by any stretch of the imagination. And it sold off yesterday with the sell-off, right? So it is expected to be a little up today. So really interesting. And then you take a look at what's going on with silver here. Silver is up right now, but my gosh, last night, like it closed at the lows, breaking the level, as you can see here. So it broke the level that we were discussing in the live stream yesterday. And then it just tanked like another 10, 11% all the way down here, hitting a low of like $64. So it went from breaking that low around $71 to $64. And this all happened within literally a couple of hours. And then it started to rally a little bit. But still, you can see this is a 4-hour chart, but it's sat at the lows still pretty much here. So it'll be interesting to see whether this is a double bottom. It's going to attempt to get in at the highs again here, or if this is just a bear market trap. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here because, yeah, silver extremely volatile. And now I want to show you this as well because it is another recession indicator, and you've got to look at Toronto home prices. That's off my screen. Let me see if I can. Yeah, that's better. So basically, this is showing you it broke down for Toronto, which is Canada's biggest housing market bubble, which is Toronto, obviously. So take a look at Toronto and you take a look at detached homes. They're down the most because they're the most expensive. Nobody can afford them. And they are down. And this hasn't even been updated, probably. It's not even updated with the fact that they're under $1 million. But you basically got everything, as you can see, all segments going down. Condos, townhomes, detached. They're all going down. And it's, in fact, detached that is tanking the hardest here. And, you know, with inflation, you just have to think, like, what is going on there? Because obviously that puts the losses way, way worse, and rents are just down. So it's just absolutely crazy. But I just find it completely nuts what is going on with these numbers and how the government is getting away with it. And this chart really explains what's going on here for everybody. And I'm going to be posting this on X in probably an hour or so. But basically, you can see this chart really showing the divergence, really showing the manipulation. And again, just to circle back to it, public sector job growth. I mean, how is that nearly identical to self-employed? And you guys who've been following these reports and following this channel for a long time, you will know that this sort of shit happens all the time. So this isn't just some random thing. We've had numbers which are identical. Like, what are the probabilities of that? I mean, it just looks, is it just a coincidence? Are we really going to believe that? But yeah, it is just C is for cooked. Yeah, totally right. It's just, this feels like just after the first Trudeau. Yeah, absolutely crazy. So absolutely crazy, guys. I want to thank you so much for being on this live stream. If you've enjoyed this, please check out this video here. I will see you in the next one. Have a great weekend and the rest of your day. Bye-bye.